Good evening, good evening, good evening. Welcome to the next installment of Meet the Leaders. I am your host, Jerry McPherson, Director of Economic Empowerment for the Greater Phoenix Urban League. So if you are familiar with the broadcast, you got a little bit of homework, please like, comment, share, let the world know that you're with us. We want to get as many people to this broadcast as possible, and you can help us do that. Like, comment, share, leave a comment, tell us where you're dialing in from, tell us how you heard about the program. Share with your friends, send a text message. We want to get as many people to this broadcast as possible. We know it's Valentine's Day. We know you got some things to get to later in the evening, dinner, dining out, whatever it may be. We'll get you to that in just a moment. But before we do that, we got a phenomenal broadcast ahead of us. We'll be speaking with Chandler City Councilman O.D. Harris, councilman, entrepreneur, author, jack of all trades, and master of virtually all of those. He'll be joining us in just a moment. But before we get over to that, please like, comment, share, let the world know that you're with us. We got a phenomenal broadcast ahead of us. If you are in the chat, please let us know where you're dialing in from. We'll be getting started in just a few moments. Again, I am Jerry McPherson, Director of Economic Empowerment for the Greater Phoenix Urban League. We are just about halfway through our Black History Month, and we'll be speaking with Councilman O.D. Harris, who, as he does throughout his day, creates Black history in the work that he's doing, helping to make sure that there is a place for us in the areas that he represents, which is, as I mentioned, Chandler, but we'll also be talking about the East Valley as a whole. We are the Greater Phoenix Urban League. We go beyond just the activities that happen here within the Phoenix city limits. We support the surrounding cities as well. And we'll be speaking with O.D. Harris, who can tell us a little bit about the work that he's doing, all the tools and resources that the city of Chandler is providing, as well as the East Valley, so you can get in tune with some of the things that are happening in the surrounding area. Without any further ado, I would like to introduce the president and CEO of the Greater Phoenix Urban League, George Dean. Take it away, George.
Thank you, Jerry, and good evening to all of our listeners and lookers and viewers out there. And first of all, let me say happy Valentine's Day to all of the beautiful ladies and females and so forth that are watching us, and happy Valentine's Day, and hope this has been a great day for you in celebrating that event. Listen, we are 1.5 months into 2022, and from all indications, if it keeps going the way that it's going this first month and a half, this is going to be a very busy year. Some of the things that have taken place in the last month and a half is that was recognition mostly by the Democratic Party of the January 6th insurrection in Washington, D.C., and the January 6th committee is still meeting and haven't come to a conclusion as far as that report is concerned, which is very important. In Arizona, there have been 100 or so bills to reform Arizona election law, and they'll continue to go forward and so forth, looking for fraud in the 2020 election. We still have a lot of folks that are saying that the election was a fraud and it's a big steal and a big lie and so forth, and the president shouldn't be there, but that's not the case. Also, another thing that's happened, the city of Phoenix have made June 19th to be a city holiday and so forth. And we're going to talk about that later on in terms of something going on in the East Valley as far as that is concerned. Another thing that is still going on and still been with us is getting pretty close to being almost around for 3 years now, and 2 years certainly, and that is COVID-19. And these variants, the Delta variants and the Omicron variants, they are still with us. And I have to encourage and say to all of you that have not been vaccinated to get vaccinated. That is still very, very important that you do so. And they've also made the vaccines available for those that are from 5 to 11 and 12 to 18 and so forth, as well as all the adults. So vaccination is going to be there. It's been decided that perhaps this COVID-19 might be with us for a while, but in fact, it might end up being just like the flu is. But we have got to learn how to control it and manage it much better than what we've done at this time. We've lost a lot of Americans have lost their lives in terms of this, and those that are being hospitalized and so forth now, certainly many of those are unvaccinated. So if you haven't been vaccinated, get vaccinated as soon as you can. Another important thing that is taking place is Supreme Court Justice Stephen Breyer has retired, and President Biden has said that he's going to nominate an African-American woman to fill his seat, which will be a history making, and that that woman will be the first African-American woman to serve on the Supreme Court in all of its history and so forth. Many of you, I'm sure, watched the Super Bowl that took place last evening, and also the WM Phoenix Open took place, and the Barrett Jackson car auction took place. It's just a lot of things that are going on, and like I said, it seems like 2022 is going to be a busy year, and I'm really looking forward to bringing you the program this evening, because we're going to find out more about the East Valley and the fact that it is a very, very important and integral part of. We mostly talk about Phoenix and don't mention too much about the East Valley, and that's looked upon as a suburb and so forth. But it's important, and we're going to find out a lot more about the East Valley this evening. So with that, and I'm glad that Councilmember O.D. Harris has agreed to appear with us this evening. So between he and Jerry and myself, we think this will be an informative evening. Stay tuned. Back to you, Jerry.
Thank you once again, President Dean, for your leadership over the past 50 years to the Urban League movement, as well as leading our affiliate and representing and working for those in the greater Phoenix area. We greatly appreciate your contributions. So, as mentioned, just wanted to point out, President Dean mentioned the COVID-19 pandemic, as well as vaccinations. Greater Phoenix Urban League has been out front and diligent in making sure that our community members had access to testing, as well as vaccinations. Just recently, last weekend, or the weekend prior to that, we hosted a vaccine fair, and we are looking towards having the Greater Phoenix Urban League serve as a permanent testing site for COVID-19 vaccinations.
Right.
Stay tuned in for further information on that. But without any further ado, we are going to bring on the man of the hour, Councilman, the City of Chandler Councilman O.D. Harris, along with President and CEO of the Ready, Set, Go Foundation, as well as an author, as well as an entrepreneur, as well as an all-around good guy. O.D. Harris, welcome to the broadcast.
Hey, what's up? Thank you so much. First of all, thank you, Jerry, and thank you to the President, George Dean. You're doing a great job with the Urban League, and I appreciate the honor and the privilege to be among such diligent and just distinguished men. Thank you so much for having me.
So, O.D. Harris, for those in the audience, who I don't know how many of them are left, but for those in the audience who do not know you, don't know your backstory, don't know your origin story, please take a moment and kind of give us, the lay of the land of how you came to the position where you are today.
Absolutely. I'm going to excuse Jerry for calling me O.D. Harris when I'm Councilman O.D. Harris.
Pardon me.
Jerry and I, we are very close friends, so it's all good. But yeah, so just a little bit about me. I'm a young cat. I can say that. Born in Chicago, Illinois. My family later migrated from Chicago, Illinois to Michigan. And from there, I started my career. I went to school, graduated, got my degree, my master's degree in accounting. And I opened up my first tax and accounting practice right there, a little space, 75 square foot space, right there in little Lansing, Michigan. It was so small. I used to have to tell my clients to get up and scoot in a little bit so we can close the door. Well, that practice later became a booming practice, and might I add, I was just 21 years old, and I was the youngest entrepreneur or business owner with an actual building at the age of 21. Well, God has seen fit, and it grew from one location to 35 locations in 7 different states. And so we were able to ascertain almost 41,000 clients throughout the nation. And that work right there I absolutely enjoy. But also I had the giving back as well. Being a community person, being community oriented. When I was younger, I used to go door to door and collect canned goods for those that were in need during the holidays, to the point where I was recognized by many individuals in the city in Michigan. I later went on to sell that practice to go into private accounting, where I deal with people specifically that I choose to. And after selling that business, I started a foundation called Ready Set Go, which primarily focused on helping people start their own business. You can go to readysetgofoundation.org to learn more about it. Also, through that process, I also started a marketing and media company where we service photography and do videography work, as well as I've been able to be an established author, publishing 2 books, one, Quantum Leap Theory of Leadership, being on the bestseller list. So I'm truly glad to the work. I later ran for office for the first time in the city of Chandler and became an elected official. And so now, being just the third African-American man elected in the city of Chandler, I'm proud to serve the people of Chandler at 281,000 people.
Councilman Harris, that is a phenomenal backstory. It was quite the journey from entrepreneur, small office to being a city councilman in one of the fastest growing cities in our region. So it's a great work that you're doing, and hopefully we'll be able to get dive into that conversation a little bit deeper. I don't know where to begin, but I'll begin with one of the one of the more recent conversations we've had. Well, let's back up before we get into that. Tell us about what you've experienced serving as a councilman for the city of Chandler.
Well, thank you for that question. I get it all the time. Being Black and elected in a district that is 70% white, I get that question a lot, especially from the Black community, only because of the fact that the weighing of stress that it takes to represent people who don't look like you. But I will say this much. It's rewarding work because I happen to be in a very educated district where 70% of my constituents holds a bachelor's degree or higher. It's work. It is making people feel comfortable, and also is understanding what issues do I get behind and go full force into, and understanding that, my district, Chandler, is just a little bit different from other districts that's in the state of Arizona. We are a fast-growing city, but we also have companies like Intel, NXP. We have Wells Fargo Hub. We have extremely wealthy Fortune 50 companies, and we just happen to be in a great position to grow, and we continue to do great things. So yeah, it's work. But the one thing I would share with everyone, the one thing I was super surprised about being Black and elected, you cannot just snap your fingers and think something's going to change. It takes a lot of meetings. Oh my God. It's a meeting for everything. I said, man, when I was an entrepreneur, all I had to do was just say, and it was done. In city government, you're going to have 50 meetings. So don't think because you ask one time, that's the end of it. No, that is the beginning of a conversation that can merely last a year before it's done. So I tell everyone, stick to the pressure, talk to your electeds, but don't give up on the conversation because you don't feel like because you don't feel like you're having a constant communication with them. But it's a lot of work. That's one of the things I really learned, and I think that's important for everyone to know.
Odie, let me jump in and ask another question. How large is the council, and do you have districts, or do you all go at large? How are you elected in Chandler?
Yes, so the council consists of mayor and 6 council members. We are all at large. In order for something to pass, it does take 4 votes. So at any given time, I always say that there's you may be the strongest person on the council at any given time if you have the 4 votes to follow your issue. So we consist of 1 mayor, 6 council members, and we are all at large.
And you all serving on the same term or the staggered terms so that it's always somebody on the council? How does that
so
work?
we do staggered terms. Currently, right now, we do a process called 4 and 3. Basically, the mayor's up for re-election right now, and 3 council seats are up for re-election right now, heading into this year in August of 2022, into November of 2022. So it's important for everyone to get out there and vote. The following election will be 2 years following that. That's when my seat would technically be up, and I will be looking at what my options will be at that time. But that then would be 3 seats available for people to run.
Okay.
So you've been in the seat for just over a year. Tell us about some of the work that you've done and some of the initiatives you've led for the city of Chandler.
Well, thank you for that question. One of the biggest things that I'm currently working on, and before I share what I'm working on, let's say when I got into office, I felt like Chandler needs to get a little bit further up on diversity, equity, and inclusion. Before we had a diversity office where it was included, where the neighborhoods and a lot of other departments ran into that office. So it really was not significantly strong in being a standalone department. So when I got in and we had a meeting with the council, we asked, what does our strategic framework looks like for the next 2 years? And one of the biggest things that I wanted to include in our strategic framework was diversity, equity, and inclusion, not just diversity, but equity and inclusion. And so what we were able to do is come together, and I was able to bring the council together at our strategic framework and ask them, would they be willing to, number one, have a department that's designed for diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I got that passed. And then the second thing is, when you look at our brand DNA, every city, every organization have a brand statement. It used to say safe, a safe community and other different things. But now when you look at our brand statement, it now says it is now added diversity, equity, inclusion. And when cities put that into their written platform, what that does then is that tells the staff, it directs the staff to go out and making sure that the city is being diverse, equitable, and inclusive to the community that we live in. And I am proud to say that I was able to get those 2 things done. Many may not understand the importance of that, but Chandler has never had that. Chandler has never had a diversity, equity, and inclusion office. And I'm glad to have my fingerprint or my thumbprint in that blueprint moving into our first year. And then the second thing I will mention is that I am currently, I put forth a non-discriminatory ordinance in the city of Chandler because I felt like there needs to be equal representation for everybody. And that was one of the initiatives that I put forth while putting forth the diversity, equity, and inclusion and department, as well as the wording in our brand statement. But this has been, the non-discriminatory ordinance have been one of those issues that has been a continuous conversation in the city of Chandler and talking to the other council members to try to get that passed.
Well, congratulations on getting that department established. And you mentioned diversity, equity, and inclusion. I know that term, that idea has evolved over the years, but the equity and inclusion, and with Chandler being a city, a municipality that can help influence other entities. If you already get the local government behind it, then the private companies may be more inclined to get behind it as well. So that is just the first domino that can affect change not only in Chandler but the surrounding cities as well. So thank you for that work, as well as pushing forth the non-discriminatory ordinance.
Yeah, and I think that it's important for people to understand how city works. For city, if it's not in writing, it does not exist. If it's not in writing, there's no budget connected to it. If it's not in writing, it's almost like a phantom ideal that we are working together to include the whole community. And we know as people of color, diversity became an evolving word where it no longer became about people of color. It no longer became about setting the line, setting the standard. It became everybody. And we have to understand that in our community, we have to understand that there's things that's happening that everybody is not included in. Everybody is not included in these conversations. When I look at the city of Chandler, I look at how many Black contractors are there in the city of Chandler. I don't see that. How many Black business owners are there in the city of Chandler? Restaurant owners, less than 10. The restaurant owners got to get approved from the city council. And a lot of people don't recognize that the city council does control their daily lives. And with that being said, how many of them look like us? That's important. And I think when we talk about diversity, equity, inclusion, we talk about how we move forward, we must look at that council controls everybody's life. And it's important that we have representation there.
Mhm. It seems like there are a lot of people need to be educated, Councilman. Are you setting up anything? Are you thinking along the lines of how you're going to better educate your constituents and so forth, especially as far as the Black and Brown community are concerned?
Yeah, and I would just say this: it's been a journey. It's been a journey of education. I think, special, number one of the ways that I feel like I'm bringing awareness slash education is making sure that we have organizations like Base Arizona, who recently came on the scene to work towards making sure that we have more programming in the city of Chandler, as well as when we look at Chandler for Change, ran by Sean Mitchell, Bases ran by Keisha. And when you look at these organizations that are new, that's coming up, you find that typically they will not have the access that they have. But because there is someone that looks like them sitting on council, we're able to open up more doors. Not only that, when I look at the Urban League, the Greater Urban League, as you guys continue to expand, you continue to be great partners in the city of Chandler by expanding your program into the city of Chandler, so that way we can also partake in some of the program that Phoenix often get the benefit from. And so when you look at these connections and these organizations coming together, especially organizations of color and coming into the city of Chandler, you see that presence. And I'm very thankful to the Urban League for setting that footprint and being intentional about being a partner in the city of Chandler.
Okay.
Odie Harris, we thank you, Councilman Harris. No, we thank you. You've been welcoming us with open invitation, and have been, as you mentioned, very intentional getting us involved in some of the things that's been happening in Chandler. So we are happy, and we know it's just a growing, developing relationship. So we are looking to serve the entire valley. So thank you for doing your part to get us involved. But just wanted to talk about some of the other things that I know that you've kind of brought to the forefront for the city of Chandler. So MLK weekend, we know that it's a very important time for our community, our organizations as ours, to kind of pay homage and pay respects to Dr. Martin Luther King, along with the plethora of Black civil rights leaders and achievers over the recent years. But in paying homage to our leaders and ancestors, those with a historical impact, you took it upon yourself to make sure that we honor some current and modern day heroes as well, correct?
Absolutely. Chandler has, as you may know, and I like to separate East Valley from Phoenix. And as you know, Phoenix have MLK awards as well. But East Valley, which is comprised of 1.4 million people, and that includes Mesa, Apache Junction, Gilbert, Chandler, Gold Canyon, Santan Valley, Queen Creek, Tempe, Scottsdale, Fountain Hills, and Queen Valley. That's roughly 1.4 million people with 14 school districts and 125 charter schools. So we are in a separate, all by ourselves, we are a mighty force. So the Chandler MLK Awards was an initiative brought forth by myself as well as my organization, Ready, Set, Go Foundation. It was to recognize community leaders that has brought awareness and have lifted the city of Chandler up. As you know, that Martin Luther King represented so much to our people. and the importance of his legacy is critical. And so we had an opportunity to recognize some very distinguished leaders that has helped move the city of Chandler forward and continue to do that work. In fact, we were able to recognize our first Lifetime Achievement Award recipient, Pastor Victor Hardy, who has been in the city of Chandler for quite a number of years, who have done diligent work. In fact, he was the only, I think he had one of the only programs that was happening in the city of Chandler for the longest time before I came on council. And many did not recognize that program because, to be honest with you, is no one knows. You know what I'm saying? And because Phoenix takes such a big shine, oftentimes people look at Chandler or other city that's outside of Phoenix as a small feat. But we are very strong, and we recognize some very strong individuals in the East Valley. Kiana Sears, who's the president of the NAACP. We also honor Ashley Atkins, who's with the Urban League currently right now, who works as the president of the
Urban League Young Professionals.
Young professionals.
Urban League, yes. Ashley Atkins. Sorry, girl, don't get mad at me. I apologize.
You got the name right. You got the name right.
I got the name right. And she's such a powerful force. She's always down here. And so we recognize some very distinguished people. And I thought the awards was very befitting to recognize people who are doing the work in the city of Chandler to continue to move us forward. You can find out more about that at ReadySetGoFoundation.org.
Well, to what extent are you working with young people, Councilman, the Black student unions and so forth? You mentioned that there are 14 school districts in the East Valley, and some of those are in Chandler. How many you have there in Chandler?
Chandler comprises of 4 school districts currently right now. We are working tirelessly with our Black student union. There is a movement out here in the East Valley of Black student unions. In fact, we have had several events with the Black student unions. In fact, there's an event coming up at the end of this month, February the 26th, the last Saturday, you all. The last Saturday is going to be at Tumbleweed Park from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. We have our Black student unions that will be coming together from all the schools in the East Valley, as well as those that would like to come from other parts of the valley. And we have built such a strong leadership with the directions of Ray Black, who has been a great push. And when she started the program, she really started putting the influence, and then I partnered with her to bring the influence level up. And then we had individuals like Keisha from Base, Arizona, also partnering, which there is a strong East Valley presence of Black student unions. These students, we are empowering them with knowledge. We're putting them before great individuals. We are looking to doing a HBCU tour, and we are continuing to making sure that these children and these young people are getting what they need. If in fact, facing some of the challenges with the Black Student Union, they're often dealing with the N-word being called and being used at these schools and things of that nature. And so there's been times where I have to go and talk about that conversation, because these children, in fact, the children's in the East Valley that we know already based on a study deals with 50 microaggressions from the time they enter the school, by the time they leave. And then you want them to go and study, you want them to go and learn, and you want them to go and perform. But these kids are dealing with racism, microaggressions, all this, and several principals have reported this to me. And I know that there's a lot of work that needs to be done in our schools still.
Absolutely. And it's a great thing that the student union exists, because that, may very well become a safe space, become a place where they can confide in one another, feel comfortable, feel safe, and kind of address some of these common issues and, glean some support from one another. But of course, we're expecting, we cannot expect high school students to do all the work on their own. So we definitely need our community leaders to stay active, stay involved, and provide guidance wherever they can. So
absolutely. And I think that's why it's important for us to really work with our Black student unions, continue to push them forward, continue to have funding. In fact, I'm still working on funding for some of the events that they have coming up, but I do believe that there are some people that wants to get involved. We want to support our Black student unions. We want to see them grow. Like I said, they're dealing with a lot out here. I get all these reports set on my desk all the time, and I'm out at the school. I personally go out to the schools and have the conversations with the Black student unions, and you should see their tears. You should see their frustration. You should hear their voices. They are often trying to figure out how and what should we do. The administrators are not listening. These people are not listening. What do we do from here? And, and I try to digest that and just try to give them the best advice at the time, because they are dealing with all these issues at one time.
Yeah, certainly.
Has any thought been given to, you mentioned the East Valley is 1.4 million people, I think that's the correct number that you said. That's a big number. And have any talk underway, or is there a group already formed, a regional or an East Valley group that's dealing with many of the same things that you're talking about now?
Currently, right now, no. Most groups that are focused, they're intentionally focused on Phoenix. One of the things that I noticed, that a lot of the money that came in from the pandemic and various other, when they wanted to do equity programming, it
The
came
American
into
Rescue Plan.
Phoenix. Right, the ARPA dollars, a lot of that came into the city of Phoenix. And I know every city got ARPA dollars as well, to help out with the businesses. But when we talk about diversified funds of other funds coming from different places, you see that a lot of the money came into the Phoenix because the nation has not realized that the East Valley, that consists of 1.4 million people, is very strong, active, and alive and doing well. And so when they think about Arizona, most people only think about Phoenix. They don't think about the East Valley. And the East Valley is one of the strongest influential valleys in the state of Arizona, and continues to grow and thrive. So I think that there's a lack of awareness, because Phoenix is the fifth largest, but it's not there without that East Valley push. And so, being that we're 1.4 million people, we do need more support. We need more African American led initiatives to help bring the East Valley together, and we need more African American led dollars, specifically targeting our 1.4 million people, that where we know that many minorities live.
One of the things we see here in Phoenix is a lot of homelessness is certainly a problem. I'm just wondering, what is the situation as far as the East Valley, and more specifically as far as Chandler is concerned, and the homeless population?
Yeah, absolutely. Homeless continues to be a problem here as well. We did a homeless count. Now, our numbers may not be as large in terms of relative to a city, but we do have homeless here. We do work with our partner, Tempe. We do work with Mesa. We work with Queen Creek, and we work together collaboratively to try to solve it. We're solving our homeless issues from a regional perspective, and we have Maricopa County involved with solving this issue. As you know, that a lot of individuals, they migrate to Chandler and they migrate to Tempe, but the cost of living has been very high. And I can tell you that the city of Chandler has continued to, we have a program through neighborhoods where we help you find housing as well. And then also we are, during the pandemic, we have continued to house a lot of our homeless individuals, so that way they can have somewhere to lay their head. Some of our participants, we have had a lot of success stories as well, where these individuals have went on to buy and become a homeowner through the help of the city of Chandler. And people can reach out to neighborhood resources, Ms. Powell, who can help you find where you need to. If you live somewhere here, we would love to help you and get things together. And I want to say this too, just a plug to Chandler. While facing the pandemic, many have faced uncertainties about where they was going to live. I want you guys to know, through the initiative of Chandler and what we done, every person that was facing eviction in the city of Chandler, all all the individuals, we personally reached out to each person facing eviction, and we let them know of the funding, including not only did we reach out to them via the mail, we also reached out to them via the phone, and we also showed up at their doorstep, letting them know about the programming and helping them fill out the application. So in this state, I'm proud to say that the city of Chandler has made sure that no eviction, anyone that wanted the help, we make sure that every resident that wanted the help from us got the help and aborted their eviction. So we're very, very proud about that.
That's very good. That's something I haven't heard any other city talk about doing. That's outstanding. In fact, thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And
So,
we work during the pandemic as well. We actually sectioned off our neighborhood and a lot of our senior housing, as you know, that we have a senior population. We continue to work and serve our senior population with COVID-19, and we went to the community, and I helped lead that initiative. We went to the community and we vaccinated every senior that could not leave their community. We went there with vaccination shots. We went to their community. We went to their homes. We knocked on their door. We gave them the shot in their arm right at their homes. And no other city can say that they had a concierge service that did that. And so those are some of the things that I helped push from the back end. Now, it could not be widely publicized and things of that nature, but that's what we did to help our seniors. As you know, we have a moving senior population. It's important that they are serviced.
Fantastic.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Just wanted to chime in for those in the audience. If you have a question for Councilman Harris, please feel free to drop it in the chat. We'll get to your questions in just a moment. Again, as I promised, we're not going to keep Councilman Harris for too much longer. We know Mrs. Harris is expecting her husband home at some point, so we'll look to get you back to your family as soon as possible. But again, if you do have a question, drop it in the chat, whether it's pertaining to the East Valley, the city of Chandler, or Councilman Harris' origin story, as I mentioned. Please drop it in the chat. We got a few more minutes before we close out tonight's broadcast. I did have another question, kind of going back. Oh, well, there we go. We got a question from Mark Overall, a loyal listener to the broadcast. Speaking of evictions, as an elected official, how do you balance the duality or dichotomy, try to check me, I know the word, of property owners, particularly Black and or middle class, needed their rental payment in order to pay their mortgages on said properties? It's a simple-part question. How do you balance the homeowner's need to pay the mortgage versus the renters' challenges of not being able to pay their rent?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, number one, it goes back to what President Dean said when we talked about education, educating the people. Number one, the first aspect of this, let's talk about those recipients that are renting. Those individuals, we have reached out to them personally to help them pay their rent. So that way, that included late fees as well as utility bills, as well as paying in advance. So that way they can get caught up while they face their economic struggles. Now, those that are private homeowners that own, now we as a city, we could not necessarily get involved with that because that is personal property. But what we encourage people to do during that time was reach out to their mortgage companies. And many of us knew that the mortgage companies, and based on the ARPA dollars and the balance of that, we will help people with utility bills. But private ownership in terms of paying for their mortgage personally, that's something that we didn't take great responsibility in. We left that to the mortgage companies, and we knew that they were allowing individuals not to pay their rent. And so we try to educate them on what they need to do as a home owner. And I think that's important. But in terms of the utility bills of the homeowner, we did take on that journey, and we did help those individuals get their utility bills paid.
Mark, thank you for your question. Again, if you any questions in the audience, please drop them in. We got a few more minutes before we wrap up tonight's broadcast.
And I think a lot of the people who reached out to me during this particular time, when you have a Black council person or a Black elected official, I think every call that I got, it was from a person that looked like you and I. And the readiness, my team being on it, we helped African American man who was facing eviction during Christmas time while everyone was having a holiday celebration. His family was facing eviction, and this was right before Christmas. And my team, and through the advocacy, my team got that individual taken care of immediately. And
Nice.
I'm talking same day, within a couple hours, we had a plan and we had a check being ready to be cut to this landlord, and we had the verification of funds to the landlord immediately. Not only did I do that for him, I did it for a whole bunch of other individuals. So when you talk about equity, that's what you need. You need elected officials that look like you, that's ready and able to assist when needed.
All right, absolutely.
Okay.
I just wanted to give you an opportunity to talk about some of the upcoming events and programs that you have coming up over the next few weeks and months. So
Yeah, absolutely. So
yeah,
again,
so
we
feel free to take
start
events.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. So thank you for putting that up, Jerry. As you know, Ready Set Go Foundation is my baby. I'm a founder of it. We have an excellent board, but we have some spectacular events coming up. This program is more designed to help people start their own business. As you can see, on March 26th coming up, we have the Women of Influence High Tea, dedicated for women in focus. On March 29th, we have a women's roundtable that will be where women will be able to come and discuss, corporate executives as well as business owners will be able to discuss some of the business issues that's facing them today. Also, we have the first start of our 5-week entrepreneurial training. If you are an entrepreneur out there and you want to get started, April the 5th is a day that you want to kind of meet us there on Tuesdays from 6:30 to 7:30, and it's free. September 16th, we're going to have our annual luncheon for our fundraiser. And then we got October the 4th, our 5-week entrepreneurial training come back again. And then we have our suicide. That was an amazing event. And that was great partnerships from every organization. And lastly, most importantly, on March 18th, the Black administrators will be having, I will be the keynote luncheon speaker for the Black Administrators Luncheon. That's happening, Mark of Excellence Award, where we'll be recognizing Corey Woods, City Manager Jeff from the City of Phoenix, as well as other dignitaries there. And I am proud to be the keynote speaker for that particular luncheon. So I hope to see you guys there March 18th. And I do believe the tickets are sold out. So I hope you got one.
I don't, but thankfully I'm friends with Councilman Harris, so I'm sure we'll be able to kind of get me inside the door. Let's test the limits of this friendship, right?
Yeah, let's do it.
And where is it going to be held?
This event, great question. I think, let me pull it up, because it's going to be, I believe it's going to be held at the Marriott, the Camelback Marriott. The Camelback Marriott. I'll send it over to you all. I'll send it over to you. I'll send it over to you, but it's going to be at the Marriott in Phoenix, I believe, near Scottsdale.
Yeah,
Okay, send that to us so we can get that out and let people know about it. Although you are sold out.
Yes.
Still got to
And it's
spread
all
awareness
too.
Before we move on and close off for the day, just you mentioned the teen suicide prevention and awareness event that you have coming up. That was one of the events where the Greater Phoenix Urban League was able to serve as a partner and combining our All In campaign. Tell us a little bit about that event, how it came to fruition, why that topic was so important to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you to the Urban League for being such distinguished partners and understanding what moves our community forward. As you know, that the crisis since the pandemic, teen suicide as well as adult suicide has continued to rise at an alarming rate, and realizing the importance of putting some elements in place to help counteract that 30% increase rise has been substantial. And so what we did, we partnered with several organizations such as the Urban League, as well as licensed therapists and doctors, as well as students and Black student unions as well, where we were able to come together at the main event to discuss teen suicide and adult suicide, and as well as we had the parents. The event was extremely successful. We had about 700 people come out to the event. We had over 16 elected officials to participate in this event. What the event mainly was about was trying to get the resources and the information out there for individuals who are experiencing suicide and those that have went through the trauma of experiencing a loved one commit suicide. And I was very thankful for the Micah E. Thomas Foundation, a memorial fund, who stepped up. Doretta Thomas, many may know her. Many may know Micah, who were the son of the late Lexus Thomas, Bishop Thomas. Her son, his life ended actually this past year in July, around July 15th or 20th. And Miss Thomas wanted to make sure that people knew that Micah was experiencing some of these troubling issues. But it's important for us to understand that these things does happen. And she partnered with us as well as Waste Management, Urban League, and a bunch of other great organizations to put that. And so the next one that's going to be happening is going to be the main event. And we're expecting at the main event, we're expecting over 1,500 youth alone to come to this particular event. And actually the main event, we're going to actually seal off the whole entire venue because it was so packed. Jerry, it was so packed, you could not move around at all. If you want to learn more about that, go to ReadySetGoFoundation.org. Go check out the video.
Right. Yeah. I can attest the event was packed. It was hundreds of kids. I guess anywhere from three to 400. But it was a great way for them to connect, hear from some phenomenal speakers, hear from some therapists, hear from educators, parents. Kind of just to communicate that there is a support system available, and that the individuals that I mentioned are available to them. So that was a phenomenal event. As I mentioned, I can't even personally, I have not experienced an event addressing that particular topic, nor to that magnitude. So, it's one of the things that, we may not want to talk about in our communities, or may not want to talk about in our household, but the conversation needs to be had that if a teen is experiencing, whether it's online bullying, whether it's just trying times of being locked in the home and not being able to go out and see their friends due to the pandemic, people are struggling, so children, not only people, but children are struggling. So it was a phenomenal event that was put forth in the topic that we need to continue to pursue and bring to the light.
And then I think the beautiful thing about this particular thing was the fact that every mayor of the East Valley, all the mayors of the major East Valley was represented, and they were in support. And so I think that was, we had 16 elected officials there and contributing to the East Valley. And remember what we shared, 1.4 million people in the East Valley. You got 16 elected officials that was there participating from the school board to the federal level, was there in conjunction with it. And as always, the Urban League was there, working closely alongside, doing whatever needs to be done. This is the type of fight that we need in the East Valley. This is what we need in order to continue to move things forward. And we need Phoenix and other areas to understand that East Valley is on a move. We need more African-American initiatives. We need more Hispanic initiatives. We need more housing. We need more ways to combat some of the major issues that have been often geared to one particular region. But now the East Valley is really working hard, and we are growing rapidly. And I'll say this too, Intel expanded in the city of Chandler, $20 billion investment, the largest investment that any other city has ever faced in the whole entire nation. And we're going to be, at the end of next year, in the next 2 years, we're going to be employing over 15,000 new people. And we're specifically looking for engineers in this area. Intel direct hire is going to be over 3,000 at the rate of $150,000 a year per annual salary. And the good thing, and the thing about Intel is everyone think that you need a degree in order to be an engineer at Intel. And that's not true. You can actually have the language, you can have the understanding, and you can have the college fortitude, and they will hire you. So just keep that in the back of your mind. And we're thankful for companies like Intel. We're thankful for companies like Honeywell that has moved in. So we're expecting 150,000 people in the next 2 years to be living in the East Valley, somewhere around the corners of Mesa, Chandler, Gilbert, and Queen Creek.
Yeah, it's a growing city and it's a sprawling region.
Keep going. All right.
Yes, sir.
So
Thank you.
it looks like we don't have any questions from the audience, and I think we'll take the opportunity to wrap up. But before we do so, before we close out with President Dean's closing message, I want to give Councilman Harris opportunity for some closing thoughts.
Well, Urban League, thank you so much for this great opportunity. Jerry, we appreciate you. You're doing a great job. And President Dean, as always, you has always been a great trailblazer for individuals like myself. And I appreciate you for continuing to keeping the battle and keeping the pressure forward and keeping our needs before the people. Lastly, I would say to the people of Chandler, thank you so much for your continuous support. And I am doing the best I can to be a great representation for all people. And if there's any needs that you may have, please feel free to reach out to me, od.harris@chandleraz.gov. For those individuals who are looking to get involved more in the community, please go to my foundation, Ready, Set, Go, foundation.org. We would love to get your support as well. So again, we thank you. We appreciate you. Also, get my book, Quantum Leap Theory of Leadership. It's on Amazon right now. Thank you.
All right. Let me just thank you once again for agreeing to be with our Meet the Leaders program and for the information that you have provided. I said earlier that you were going to provide some valuable information, and I think you have, and that you guys are being busy. You're busy in Chandler in the East Valley, and I didn't realize that there were 1.4 million people, but that's a big number. So keep it going, and whatever we can, know that the Urban League will be here to assist in whichever way that we can.
Thank you.
So, all right. Well, Odie Harris, again, thank you for your time, energy, and expertise. We look forward to continue working with you and continuing to not only witness, but be a part of the ground that you're laying out in Chandler. Again, we're the greater Phoenix Urban League, so we're looking to reach out to all those in the surrounding cities. So thank you for your time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good evening, and once again, happy Valentine.